The first time I met him, I knew I was going to hate him. And yet, the cruel twist of fate was that I couldn't stop looking at him. His eyes, cold as winter steel, seemed to cut through me like I was just another number on a spreadsheet. It was my first day working at Carrington Enterprises, one of the biggest financial firms in New York City. Everyone said Mr. Adrian Carrington was ruthless, a man who lived for numbers, not people. They called him the Ice King. Standing in his office with the skyline stretching endlessly behind him, I could see why. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink too much. He just looked at me like I was already replaceable. "Ethan Wright, right?" His voice was smooth, deep, but distant. "Your resume is good, but don't think for a second that makes you special." That was his welcome. I should have walked out then. I should have taken that as a warning. But there was something in his tone behind the sharp edge, a faint crack I almost imagined that made me stay. Maybe it was foolish hope. Maybe it was the part of me that always wanted to understand people no one else dared to. Working under Adrian was like living in a storm. He was demanding, precise, sometimes cruel with his words. Yet he never touched me, never raised his voice. His weapon was silence, those piercing eyes that could unravel you in seconds. And I hated that part of me that noticed how beautiful he looked when the evening light hit his face, when the city lights painted shadows across his jaw. I told myself it was nothing, just a stupid crush on someone completely unattainable. But the nights got longer, and the more I worked beside him, the more I realized there was something beneath that frozen armor. One night, after everyone had left, I found him sitting alone in his office. His tie was loosened, his hair a little disheveled, and for the first time he didn't look like the Ice King. He looked human. "Why are you still here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual though my heart was hammering. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the city lights, like he was searching for something out there. "Because going home feels worse than staying." The honesty in his tone shook me. It was such a rare glimpse into the man behind the cold exterior. That night, for the first time, I didn't see my boss. I saw Adrian. From then on, things changed even if he tried to pretend otherwise. He still barked orders, still kept his walls high, but sometimes, when no one else was looking, his eyes softened when they met mine. And God help me, those moments kept me alive. But the world wasn't kind to men like us, especially not to men like Adrian Carrington, rich, powerful, expected to be perfect. Rumors spread easily in the office. The closer we got, the more whispers I heard. "Why is the Ice King always keeping Wright so late? Did you see the way he looked at him?" The rumors cut into me like knives, and I knew they reached Adrian too. He pulled away, colder than ever. For days, he barely looked at me. For days, I felt like I'd lost something I never even had. And then it happened. One evening, I walked into his office to hand him a report. He didn't take it. He just stared at me, his face unreadable, his hand trembling slightly. "This has to stop," he said, voice low, like he was confessing a sin. My chest tightened. "What has to stop?" "Whatever this is." He gestured between us, frustration laced in his words. "I can't, Ethan, you don't understand. If people find out," I cut him off before he could finish. "I don't care about people. I care about you." It slipped out before I could stop myself. The truth, raw and terrifying. And for a moment, the Ice King cracked. His lips parted, his breath caught, and I swore I saw a longing flicker in his eyes. But then he turned away. "You should go," he whispered. I left his office with my heart in pieces. And yet, a part of me still believed this wasn't the end. Because I had seen the way his hands shook when he pushed me away, the way his eyes lingered too long. Adrian Carrington was drowning, trapped in his own walls, and for reasons I didn't fully understand, he was terrified of letting me in. But love doesn't care about fear, and mine wasn't going anywhere. I tried to move on. I buried myself in work, avoided looking into those gray eyes that once pulled me in like gravity. But it was impossible. Every time Adrian walked past me, every time his hand brushed mine when he handed me a file, every time his voice dropped softer when he asked me to stay late, I knew I was lying to myself. And then came the night everything changed. The firm was hosting a charity gala at a hotel in Manhattan. The kind of event where wealth sparkled like champagne and everyone wore masks even without them. I was there only because Adrian had ordered me to help with logistics, but truthfully, I hadn't expected to see him outside of his usual armor. Yet when he walked in a perfectly tailored black suit, he looked breathtaking. Dangerous. Untouchable. My chest ached with the unfairness of wanting someone so far out of reach. Halfway through the night, I escaped onto the balcony, away from the suffocating chatter of executives and socialites. I needed air. That's when I heard the door behind me click open. Adrian stepped out. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The city stretched endlessly beneath us, lights flickering like distant stars. And then, he said something that nearly knocked the breath out of me. "I can't keep doing this," he murmured, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Pretending I don't see you. Pretending I don't want you." I turned to him, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. His eyes weren't cold tonight. They were burning, desperate, conflicted. "Then stop pretending," I whispered. It happened so fast I almost thought I imagined Itha's hand reaching for mine, his lips crashing against me with years of restrained longing. It wasn't gentle. It was raw, messy, almost violent with need. And yet, in that kiss, I felt more tenderness than I'd ever known. When we finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. "You're going to ruin me, Ethan. Maybe you need to be ruined," I whispered back. From that night on, everything was different. We didn't announce it. We couldn't. In the office, we remained boss and employee. Cold stares, clipped orders, the facade of professionalism. But behind closed doors, behind the safety of his penthouse walls, Adrian was no longer the Ice King. He was warm, vulnerable, sometimes even fragile. He would fall asleep with his head on my chest, breathing unevenly as though afraid I'd disappear. And I realized then his coldness had never been cruelty. It was protection. He'd built walls so high to shield himself from a world that expected perfection and punished weakness. And somehow I'd slipped through the cracks. But love is never simple. The more we tried to keep it hidden, the more dangerous it became. Whispers spread faster. Someone had spotted us leaving together one night. A reporter sniffed around. The board of directors began to question his judgment. Adrian grew more distant, and I feared the walls were closing in again. One night he broke. "You should leave me," he said, his voice cracking, "before this destroys you, before it destroys everything you've worked for." I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. "You think I care about promotions and salaries when I have you? Adrian, I'd rather lose everything than lose this." His eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Not just longing, not just fear, but hope. Fragile, trembling hope. And for the first time, he didn't push me away. The storm didn't pass overnight. The world didn't suddenly accept us. But Adrian started showing up differently. He stood taller, unapologetic, even when whispers turned into headlines. And when people questioned, he didn't deny me. "I won't live a lie anymore," he told me one morning, gripping my hand so tightly it hurt. "If the world wants to hate me for loving you, let them. I'd rather be hated with you than worshipped without you." It was the bravest thing I'd ever seen him do. Months later, the scandal quieted. People moved on to new gossip, new stories. And though our journey wasn't easy, we carved out a life together, one where Adrian laughed more, where I didn't wake up fearing he'd turn cold again, where love wasn't something whispered in shadows but lived in daylight. The Ice King was gone. In his place stood a man who had learned that vulnerability wasn't weakness, and that love, no matter how forbidden it seemed, could set him free. Sometimes, late at night, when we're tangled together on his couch, Adrian presses a kiss to my hair and murmurs, "You ruined me, Ethan," and I always smile, pressing closer to him. "No, Adrian, I saved you, and you saved me too, because in the end, love wasn't about power or control or fear. It was about choosing each other again and again, despite the odds. And that was something neither of us would ever regret." Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.